But what we don't realise, and this is what generational trauma is about, is that the guilt that you feel is probably unhealed guilt that's been passed on through your lineage of knowing bad intention of anybody's. But what we don't hear, we pass on. That's it. You know, Gabor Mate, who's, you know, one of the top
amazing
trauma psychiatrists, will say that what you don't heal, you will pass on whether you want to or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what you do pass on, you can also heal by healing yourself.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Big Chat. And as is our theme at the moment, we're talking about all things that might help you through your way in life. And this person I've never met before, so it's going to be a really interesting chat. She is someone that I certainly am interested to talk to, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are, because she's actually what's known as a divorce doula. So you might not know what that is, but she's going to explain a bit more about that. And I'm really happy to introduce you this morning to Farhana, who is a divorce doula. Hello, Farhana.
Hello.
How are you?
Really excited about being here with you, Coco. Like, really excited.
You're here to chat about.
Yes.
So tell me, we just had a little snippet of what you've been doing. I'm as we've just discussed, I am separated but not divorced, and I think that is something that a lot of people potentially are in that period of separation but not necessarily divorced, and not with their exes or whatever. So I'm especially interested to find out how you got onto this journey. You said that you were a life coach for a few years. Is that how you came into this remit?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, prior to being a life coach, I was a special needs coordinator and an inclusion lead. I worked a lot with parents and teachers and found myself coaching and mentoring them and really loved it. COVID came along, the usual story, but right, you know what, I need to do something that's going to really serve my family better. I was a single parent and life wasn't working out for us the way we wanted it to be. And so, I decided to go into life coaching, working very much with generational trauma to start with, mainly because of my own journey. Being a South Asian woman, British Bangladeshi, I had a lot of conflict between my heritage and my adopted cultures, and really wanted to see how I could stitch those together without shame and guilt.
Yeah.
So did that for a few years, life coaching. But the more and more I started to up-level my life and transform it through my own self-healing journey, the more and more people started to ask me, you know what, Farhana, how have you managed to transform your life from a woman who was really broken from a very difficult separation and divorce, a really messy one, with 3 young children. I had 3 young children under the age of 6 at one point when I first separated, was completely financially dependent on my then husband, to today, you know, building my own business, being an entrepreneur, having 3 amazing, thriving teenagers, you know, owning my own place. So more and more people were asking me about my own journey. And I thought, actually, you know what? I need to start really focusing on men and women who are struggling unnecessarily. And this is it, you know, my journey was a really messy one. And it got to a point where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. There's got to be a better way. And this is not the legacy that I want to pass on to my own children. You know, the statistics show that children from what they say broken families, families that are split up, are more likely to repeat those patterns. And I did not want that to be the legacy that I pass on to my children. And so I did find a way. I did find a way to break those cycles and to transform my life and to transform that of my children. So I'm passing on a different script to them. And I thought, actually, I need to show other people how they can do this too, because I'm really tired, Coco, of watching men and women suffer unnecessarily. This story's got to change. You know, the societal script, family scripts, religious scripts are so sort of down on separation and divorce. Even now, I mean, forget about Eastern cultures, and even in Western culture still it's quite taboo and seen, you know, there's a lot of pity around it. This story's got to change because it doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't have to be like that. And that, I proudly say that I co-parent with my ex-partner, and while we're not divorced, we have been separated for 5 years, and we co-parent 2 children 11 and 13. And often my friends say to me, wow, how have you done that so well? How have you done? It's had its ups and downs, don't get me wrong, but it's been because we've both worked at it. We both decided when we didn't want to be together anymore. We had a conversation about it. It was very open. And I even very cheesily used the words, I want to consciously uncouple, as borrowed by someone else, but I wanted to create an environment for my children where they could still grow up with both their parents, knowing that both their parents loved them dearly and loved each other, actually, because we still do have a lot of love for each other. But we just don't choose to be together. And so we do co-parent across our two homes, and our children can come and go from the two homes as much as they want. They're fortunate, but we have made that way. We've worked very hard at that, and it's been difficult at times, but again, we've worked very hard at that. But you do get lots of people sort of looking at you and sort of like, oh, you co-parent, of course, how does that work? And not everyone has the ability to get on well with their ex-partner either. I understand that, so I am fortunate in that sense. So I mean, when you're a divorce doula, is that something you're probably dealing with all sorts of scenarios, aren't you? Not all will be as straightforward as mine, where someone gets on well. We probably just need to get around and do the paperwork, to be honest, with myself and my ex, but we're also quite happy where we're at. So it's what would you say are the sort of people that are coming to you and talking to you about needing your help?
Anything goes. So if you're happy with how things are, then who cares what anyone else thinks. However, the people that are coming to me are people who they know they can even reimagine an amazing life for themselves. They just don't know how to get there. That's one type of person that will come to me. Look, they say, look, I know I can have this great life. I know it's available to me. I believe it mentally, but my body is just completely contracted. I just don't know how to take that next step or what that next step is. The other people who come to me are people who feel completely powerless, and they're saying, I don't know how to carry on after this. I feel completely powerless. I feel completely numb. And I want to feel different. I want to feel different. And a lot of them, some of them are people without children, but a lot of them are people with children who are so desperate for it not to affect their children. And they're like, we'll do whatever it takes, so that it doesn't impact our children. And the thing is that it always comes down to the relationship between you and yourself, Coco. As you probably know from co-parenting, it's about, the relationship between me and myself. If I can feel confident and powerful with that, then I can have a relationship with my ex-husband. I can co-parent. I can speak with integrity. But people who are coming to me know it's possible. They just don't know how to.
So you talk about the fact that you experienced a difficult divorce. I mean, I imagine that's given you a lot of insight into how, quite often we learn our biggest learnings are through pain, unfortunately, but it's a gift that you get given. If you go through something painful, I mean, for me personally, my parents divorced when I was probably mid-teenager, but it was really unpleasant. It was an unpleasant scenario. And so that for a long time made me I wanted to get married and I wanted to stay married. It's very important to me. And I would say that, openly, that I still find it hard. I still find it sad that my marriage didn't continue the way that I wanted it to, because I did want to be that, perfect family that I hadn't had as a child. And I imagine a lot of people that come to you feel that there's the guilt around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the real guilt, and also on another level, the shame. That actually
feeling like you failed at something.
It made me actually hide my separation from my family for a very long time, and from friends, because I felt so deeply ashamed and guilty that that my children were going to suffer for this. They weren't going to have the lifestyle, the standard of living, or the life that I had dreamt for them. So all these broken dreams, I was putting them away in boxes because I couldn't bear. Forget me, because I was this self-sacrificing good girl. I was just thinking about my children then. But what happens, Coco, is that if you don't move through that pain, move through that guilt, acknowledge it. It's not wrong to feel guilty. It's not wrong to feel shame, because that's our imprinting, that's our conditioning, that's what society's told us, that's what our families have told us. But it's about allowing yourself to move through those uncomfortable feelings and not feeling bad about feeling bad,
Yeah.
and heal that, let that go, so that you're not passing that on to your children, so that you can say to your children, you know what, sometimes things don't last forever. Sometimes we make choices that aren't the best choices, but we thought they were the best choice at the time, and it's okay, and we can start again, and we can choose again, you know, and we can rebuild again, and we can choose a different dream. And I know it sounds cheesy, be the change, but my children are witnessing it.
Yeah.
And so therefore what I'm doing is that although I couldn't protect them from some of the things that they suffered for during the separation and divorce, and they did. And, you know, I still feel a little bit sad about that. What I've been able to do is show them how to heal by healing myself, and giving them the tools to heal as well. So that my hope is that as my sons, I've got 3 boys, when they grow up, and that they're not scared about having relationships, or that they don't become codependent in a relationship because they're so scared of what happened before, they don't want that for themselves, that they can go into relationships with an open mind, with confidence, with integrity, and go, let's see how it goes in this moment right now, with all that healed trauma. You know, the memories might be there, but the trauma will be healed.
And that is because people say that you can go and have coaching for when you separate. You know, you can go and there's a name for it, isn't there? When you can go.
Mediation.
Is it mediation?
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, mediation. And so, how would you say what you're doing is different to mediation, because you're guiding them through that process and then through the divorce period as well? So, because doula, of course, I said to you, doula to me is like, birth doula, you know, and you said, well, it's like a rebirth.
It is, absolutely. And mediation and people like myself, divorce doulas, actually really complement each other. But they're very different. Yeah, there's a bit like having, you know, a doctor and a holistic therapist working alongside, you know, Western medicine.
Yes.
So we really complement each other. A mediator will help you to have an amicable, you know, separation and divorce, keep things, you know, nice, and you know, nobody has to struggle or get into these horrible, you know, fights, arguments, conflicts. It's a healthy way to move through separation and divorce. So that's more about the practical side of things, you know, the legalities, etc., that allow you to move on. As a divorce doula, my role is to literally hold your hand and help you to pivot inwards. What's happening internally? Here's all the external stuff happening, the paperwork, the conversations we're having. But as you're having this conversation, what is happening in your body? A lot of my work is very body-based. So it is very about the physicality of what you're feeling. So as you're sitting there saying to your mediator, I want 50% of my ex-husband's pension. Most people won't even be able to say that because their body will completely contract. Their throats will completely contract. They want to say, but they cannot. My job as a divorce doula is to really help you work with your nervous system, to get you to really be able to understand when your nervous system's gone into survival mode. Because when you're in survival mode, you can't think straight. And when you do go into survival mode, that's okay, because these things can be really scary and challenging. So how do you bring yourself back to center? How do you soothe yourself? How do you ground yourself? How do you get deeply rooted so that you can speak your truth? So, you know, I will do a lot of work there. I'm like, breathe through it. Come on, we can birth this. You know, it's literally like a birth doula where I'm holding your hand and going, you can do this. I know what's on the other side for you. It's going to be amazing. But you've got to move through this discomfort. And the only way to move through this discomfort is A, to acknowledge it. That is scary. B, to breathe through it so that you can feel grounded as you say what you want to say. And the third thing, which is some of the biggest work I do, is all around desire. Before you even get to that table where you say, this is what I want, I'm asking for what I want, and I can do it from a place of, without completely drowning in your anxiety, is, what is it you really want?
Because that is the thing, isn't it? You break up with, because it is really tricky, and it's very tricky when you separate from someone who I was with my ex for nearly 20 years, you know, and it's half my life. Of course, it's a
significant part of your life, and it's a life, isn't it?
And it is a life, and then you are really sort of re-establishing who you are, what you stand for, what you represent. Even though I was always a working mum and I've always had a career, I'd also been a wife and a partner, and then suddenly to not be that, it's quite scary. that you've
and lonely
and I mean, just practical things that you would do normally in a relationship where, you know, one of you does one thing and one of you does the other, and suddenly you're doing all those things on your own is tough, I would say, for a man or a woman. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be just a woman. It's a man as well, because I know that my ex-husband or partner has much higher empathy now for bringing up our children, because he's had to do it on his own now. You know, that's one thing that we now have a common ground on. Whereas before it would probably be more on me and he would be working, but actually now he's having to do it on his own. He's having to do weekends on his own, and he's having to do the parenting on his own, and so he has that greater empathy. That's incredibly tough, and that can be quite scary for a lot of people.
It really can, and again, that's where my role can be really, really transformational for the people I work with, because when you're going through the separation, you may have, you know, a support a support circle. You've got your lawyers, you may have solicitors, mediators, all these people helping you to move through an amicable divorce. Then you get to the other side and think, oh yes, thank God, I just want to get divorced, just want to get that paperwork, and then I can get on with my life, the next chapter. And you get to the next chapter and you're like, well, now what? You know, like you said, you know, like what's my new assigned role? Who am I? And how do I find the bandwidth to cope with all of this and still be able to live a quality of life that I was used to, you know, be able to provide for my family in the way I want to, you know, there is no blueprint on how to navigate this new chapter. And also, again, you're still battling with all what people say, you know, what society going to think of me, you know, what's my label? One of the things, I don't know if you found this challenging, but when I first got divorced and people would say, oh, who are you? I wasn't so-and-so's wife, you know, and I wasn't the, you know, the partner or the girlfriend. I was just like, I just didn't know what to say for a while, you know, and I hate to call myself the ex-wife as well.
I know. I still don't really know what to say when I'm saying that. I think when you're separated, it's like I'm like, he's not my husband, but he's not my ex-husband, and I never know what I'm saying. But I think as well, like you say, I think also when you do separate later on in life, if your children are grown up, some people can see you as a bit of a threat. They don't. You know, so I've found that people have been almost a bit sort of hostile when you're suddenly a single parent, because you've made that choice that you've gone off and done something on your own, and there may be people that maybe want to make that choice and haven't made that choice, and so they you know, it's triggering something in them. I've had experience of that as well. So you can have a whole host of emotions coming at you that you just don't. Some of them are yours, some of them aren't yours, and you just don't know what to do with them. Absolutely, it's scary.
And that's some of the, you know, the other core work I do with my clients is about understanding your values, because it's so important to revisit your values after you've divorced, because they are going to shift and change, because you've shifted and changed massively. And it's going back and thinking, actually, are this value system, does this serve me anymore? Is this actually important to me? You know, what is it I really want now? You know, am I holding on to all of these values because that's what, you know, a nice girl does or a good mum does, or now that, you know, I'm broke, you know, my family has broken up, I've got to be an even better mum, even though I'm on my own with less resources, and I kill myself to be even better. And so you hold on to these values that aren't even really aligned with what you really want anymore. So we do a lot of work around values. And then once you're really deeply connected with your values, which again connects back to your desires, which is really juicy and lots of fun. By the way, my favorite part of work to do, and so my clients tell you the same as well, is holding boundaries then becomes really quite easy. Because once you really know what you want, you will do everything to protect that. So when people are coming at you and projecting onto you whatever their fears are or their judgments are, you can just put up that nice perspex screen and just let it all bounce off.
It's very interesting that actually I've experienced that recently, that sort of boundary where I've had not such great boundaries in the past. Now it's quite liberating to not feel affected by if someone wants you to do something and you don't want to do it, and you're just like, sorry, that's just the way it is. This is my boundary. This is where I stand, and stepping into your power like that.
Absolutely, and it's about stepping into your power, isn't it? And it becomes doesn't become so challenging because you know what's behind, what you're protecting that boundary with. You know, we talk about boundaries all the time. You hear it a lot, right? Like, just hold those boundaries. But sometimes people don't know why they're even holding those boundaries. They're just doing it to protect themselves. So it comes from a place of fear, of I don't want to be attacked, so here's my boundary. But actually, how much more powerful is it when you know that you're really protecting something that is, you know, so precious to you and also really impacts everything else around you. If you know, hold on to that value, then that boundary becomes really easy to hold. It's a bit like being a mum, you know, with your children. You know how much you adore and love your children. So you'll do anything to protect them because you'd never intentionally do anything that puts them in a place, you know, of vulnerability or hurts them. So if they are, you wouldn't think twice, would you, about putting that boundary and saying stop to somebody? No. And it's the same thing with our desires and our values. We're allowed to desire. We're allowed to have values. Yeah. Absolutely. Ones that light us up. And why wouldn't you fight to protect those?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I like the way that you say that. You describe it as desires, because it is like remolding your life. It is looking at it from, because you do sort of feel like when you get married, you've got it all mapped out. This is how your life's going to look. And it's even if, you know, I've got another partner now, but it's just totally different. It's just totally different, and your life is just sort of turned upside down.
It is, and with the clients I work with who are going through separation and after divorce as well, actually, but especially through separation, they're so disconnected from their bodies and from what they want, and they've had to be. It's not their fault. It's a way to protect themselves. It's a way to survive through really sometimes very, very challenging times, and even if they're not, you know, really challenging, it's just a time of uncertainty. You don't know what the future holds. There's so much doubt. Am I doing the right thing? When you've been with somebody for so long, out of habit as well, your body is completely going into survival mode because it's change. It's just change. And we're not hardwired for change. We don't like it. Our brains don't like it. So it's about helping you to reconnect with your body, just to feel again. And so I do a lot of work on like physical sensation, emotional sensation, mentally tapping back into what it is you want, but getting really specific about it as well. So, you know, one of the things you probably won't be surprised to hear is my clients will go, well, I just want to feel loved again. Just want that connection again. But until you can get really specific and detailed, and I mean like right down to the nitty gritty of what that actually means for you, because what that means for you might be quite different from what that means connection and love means for me. And until you know for yourself really specifically what that means, and you might not have visited that question for a very long time, decades even, 20 years in your case, you know, where you've got, right, here I am with the person of my dreams. This is it for life. Mapped out dreams. Let's do it. Head down. Let's get on with this. Let's enjoy this. And we don't go back to revisiting those dreams and desires again when we're going through a massive life change like separation and divorce. So it's really important to go back there, and it can be surprisingly difficult at first.
I imagine it's very much of a release for people when they're working with you. I mean, it must be, because a lot of things that probably comes up. I mean, as being a coach myself, you know, when you work with someone, you coach people, it's incredibly powerful, and the things that come out of people it feels like a gift to be able to witness it.
It really is.
It really is, you know. And but I can imagine with people going through separation and divorce, that's something that I don't know. I'm just thinking of myself, you know. It would have been nice to have had some hand holding myself, because it was all just a whirlwind for me. I was separated from my husband, and then my dad passed away, and my friend passed away, and everything was going on. And I didn't really have time to think about me or myself. And I still feel quite guilty to this day that my children, like they were young, they were sort of 5 and 7 then, and it feels like the last 5 years are just gone, just like that. It's just gone so quickly, and I'm just like, whoa, that so much happened then that I was almost disassociating myself from. How much of an impact has that had on them? I mean, imagine with parents that are going through separation and divorce. That comes up a lot, the guilt.
A lot,
because it's that is my biggest thing, is being a working mum that's not with their dad anymore. Even though my children would say themselves, we're really happy that you and dad aren't together because you bickered. And they really quite like having 2 houses and they like having 2 parents that live separate lives and all the rest of it, because we're friends. But you still have this guilt. You still have this feeling of guilt.
And that's really, really important to work on that, because you know, you can look at your children and go, well, I feel guilty, but my children are okay, they're happy.
Yeah.
But what we don't realise, and this is what generational trauma is about, is that the guilt that you feel is probably unhealed guilt that's been passed on through your lineage of knowing bad intention of anybody's. But what we don't heal, we pass on. That's it. You know, Gabor Mate, who's one of the top
amazing
trauma psychiatrists, will say that what you don't heal, you will pass on whether you want to or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what you do pass on, you can also heal by healing yourself.
Yeah,
and that guilt, that internal guilt you feel, is something that I invite you to focus on, to unpick and heal, so that you can let go of it. Because if you don't, that underlying guilt will be passed on to your children.
And that's the last thing any of us.
Absolutely.
I was having a conversation with someone just earlier today, actually, when we were talking about sort of vomiting on our children, as in just vomiting all of our, just projecting onto them and giving that to them. And that's something that my ex and I are very cautious not to do. We don't want to project that.
Yeah, you don't want to, but where is it going instead? Are you suppressing it? Are you numbing it? Are you disassociating from it? Are you managing it in unhealthy ways, such as other addictions, which we all have addictions, let's face it. And they can sometimes be really well hidden addictions as well, like, like absorbing yourself in Netflix or binge eating or being on our screens. All of these things are addictions. And it's like, sort of tapping into yourself and being honest with, like, if I don't want, I'm being the responsible parent, the loving parent, I don't want to project it onto them. But it's got to go somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And so how long do you work with clients for? It must vary from person to person, because I imagine, you could have been working with me for 5 years. That might be a bit, I don't know. That might be great, but
No, that's not great at all. And
would you be like, I'm not really doing my job that well if I'm with you for 5 years.
Yeah, because as a coach as well, it's all about helping our clients to feel powerful again. And helping them to reconnect with their power, with their internal tools that they've already got, they've just forgotten about, because for so many reasons. But my work is all about giving you tools for life, because this is not just about separation and divorce, let's face it. This is about being able to navigate storms, because storms will come and go through life. It's about being able to feel deeply rooted and grounded no matter what is going on around you. And the thing about separation and divorce is it doesn't just last for the 3 months that the separation lasts for. Divorce, after divorce doesn't just last for like 1 year, like, come on, it's time for you to get over it. It just doesn't work like that, because it's grief.
Yeah, of course.
And grief is very personal, and grief can take whatever journey it wants to take in each individual. So my role is to give you those tools that will help you navigate through life no matter what is going on, that you feel rooted, that you find pleasure, and that you find power in any situation. And so I will work with people for a minimum of 6 weeks if I'm doing one-to-one. That's a minimum. Usually it's for 3 months that I'll work with them. But the work that I love doing most, that I've started recently doing, is group programs.
Oh, okay.
There is so much power
I bet.
Creating sisterhood at the moment and community with people who are going through or have been where you are or are in the same place as you.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely blows my mind when I work with my groups.
And how many do you have in a group when you work together? Is there a capacity?
Usually about 6 to 8. They're quite small, because
there's a lot of energy, I imagine.
There's so much energy. There's a lot of vulnerability, but what we want to create is sort of deep intimacy as well between the people that are working in the group. And it's not just about me being the coach. Through my group programs, I have a private group as well where they can come and join in and meet. But us cheering each other on is just so powerful, so healing, not just for the person who's receiving that victory cheer of well done you can do this, keep going, but for yourself as well, who's going through this, being able to support another man or woman who's going through the same thing is also incredibly healing for us, because we get to witness what's possible too, even if we can't do it for ourselves in that moment. It's about going, okay, I might not be able to face it right now for me, but I can do it for you. And when I can see you starting to do it, that kind of loop back, that feedback loop is really powerful as well. So I love doing the group programs.
That's amazing. And I think to be in a space where you're with people that are going through similar or it normalizes what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because you can feel very isolated.
Absolutely. That's it. You feel really, so many people who come to me feel so isolated and lonely. And until you go through it yourself, something like separation and divorce or breakup, let's talk about also, I'm really passionate about working with people who've been in long-term relationships. You don't have to be married to go through that grief. But it's a very unique kind of grieving that you go through. No one's died here, but it feels like it sometimes, And so to be around other people who just get it because they're there or have been there is really, really powerful. And also what's really powerful is sharing stories. That's incredibly healing. And also just to be able to see ahead of you where some people might be and go, okay, if she can do it, it might not be the same path for me, but maybe there's hope for me as well. And that can sometimes just be such a lifeline. Yeah.
And so when you were a life coach and then you decided to really focus on this area, what was it that really drew that to you? Was that more people coming? Because do you not find with coaching that you just attract a certain type of? I know when I've coached that I know the sort of people. I'm not coaching at the moment, but when I have coached, and I will in the future, there is a certain type of person that's drawn to me. And is that what you were finding, that there was more of that energy coming towards you, and you were being able to help and facilitate in that way, or was it something you thought, actually, I'm gonna investigate this a bit more?
It was a few things. It was multi-layered, to be honest. I come from like a big South Asian community. I'm born and brought up in this country, but come from a big sort of community of very, good friends and family friends. And I've got, lots of different friends. I'm really sociable. And I found people saying to me over the last sort of year or two, as we're coming out of COVID and seeing each other more, they'd say things like, gosh, you're really glowing, like what's your makeup like routine? Or what have you started doing? And I thought, oh my God, if you saw my makeup bag, ask my sister. Everything I own in my makeup bag is my sister and her pity purchases for me. Like, please just upgrade those. Even the makeup bag that I have is my sister's giving it to me. And I thought, it could be my NARS blush.
You're glowing from within.
Or it could be.
You're glowing from within.
But I thought, you know what? If it's just the hot water that I drink. My mum said that to me the other day. She said, is it the hot water? I thought, God, if it was just the hot water, we'd all be glowing. But if I was to publish this secret as well, I thought it's got to be more than this, right? It's got to be more than this. Yeah. And maybe, just maybe, it's the years and years and the ongoing commitment I have to my own healing and growth. Yeah. And I stress on the ongoing because it doesn't end. I have my own facilitator. I have my own, path that I continue to go on to heal myself. And I think that's, that was one of the things I just thought, actually, I need to pass on to other people the things that I do that is available to all of us as well. So that was one of the things that sort of drew me more into doing the work that I do now. But also, a lot of people, family, friends, acquaintances that I know are sadly going through separation and divorce. I've got lots of friends that are really happily married as well. I have relationships, but there were more and more people coming to me and going, can I just ask you about like how you navigated this part, or as a single parent, how do you do this? And I've got a lot of questions, and I really wanted to be able to come from a place of integrity and give all my energy and power to that. But, I'm a really spiritual person as well. And I wanted to respect my energy. I didn't want to completely deplete myself. And I just thought, actually, there needs to be a fair exchange of energy here. And I want to do it in a safe and boundaried way as well, where I can really support people, really help them to grow and go on a journey. And then, I just decided that, I need to bring together all the tools I have, my coaching, my NLP, my breath work, my energy work that I do, bring it all together and you really focus on the rebirthing of a person, because that's what it is. And the word doula comes from, I actually had a doula. Did you? When I gave birth to my second son. Aww. And it was an amazing experience. Yeah. And I've been recently thinking about her a lot and thinking, there was a point I remember, like just literally bearing down, about to like give birth. She was this tiny dot of a woman, amazing woman. But she just said, just push down on my shoulders, hold on to me. And I had complete faith in her. She was my rock at that moment. I didn't have to worry about anything but myself. And her role was just to help me move through that fear, that pain, that unknowing. but I felt so safe
Yeah.
in her hands. So I was able to go through that, and she just encouraged me. I just thought, that's what I do, actually. That is
And you
my
must
role.
have people really have that trust with you, because you've got, like you say, people have to be very vulnerable and they have to really open up to you.
Oh,
and so there must be a real high level of trust, I would imagine, with your clients, where they feel safe in that environment with you, because it is very personal. You know, it's a very personal thing. And, you know, lots of people, I mean, when I split with my husband, people are like, you're like Brad and Jen, you can't split up, you know, because to everybody else, we were just this perfect couple that were going on perfect holidays and had the 2 children and everything was great. And so it is a very personal thing when you start to talk about things like that.
It is. And it's that pressure, isn't it? When they're like,
It is
you're the
pressure.
Brad and Jen. You're like,
Yeah,
oh
I
my
mean,
God,
that
what's
was a hell
wrong
of a
with
lot of pressure.
Yeah, what's wrong with us? You know, why
Yeah.
can't we just keep it together? Why can't we just be happy? You know? And also, like, I got a lot of the, but you're so lovely. You know, how could somebody do that to you? You haven't done anything wrong. And that's really tough to unpack. When people are saying things like that to you, but in the face of it all, the evidence you've got is, well, it's not working.
It's happening.
I'm really it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm really unhappy. I'm really lonely.
Yeah.
I've been rejected. I don't feel good enough. You do have to connect with somebody and really be able to trust them to say, this is how I feel right now.
Yeah.
And it's really important to come to a place of acceptance with how you feel about things, rather than like just adopting what other people are saying.
Yeah.
You know, because you need to strip back and go, actually, they might think I'm Brad and Jen, but the truth is that this is how I felt.
Yeah.
This is how it really was.
Yeah.
Because until you can accept those things, how can you move on?
And also, people change. You know, you know, my ex is a wonderful man. He's an amazing father. I am absolutely blessed. He makes my children laugh day in, day out. You know, I'm so happy for that. I chose well. But at the end of the day, you don't have to, you're not going to necessarily stay in the same place as your partner or husband forever, for whatever reason. And I do think it's important that it is normalised in, we had an experience with my son's school, you know, that you have to put down one address. You can't put down 2 addresses. We're like, but we co-parent. We co-parent across 2 homes. They have 2 homes. They're cool with that. They're absolutely fine with that. We still have this stigma that is this, you know, you have to be married and you have to have your children together and you can't have any sort of relationship after that. You know, I know, I feel for people. I have friends that have had really traumatic divorces and separations, and I really feel for them. But there is also space for couples that have separated to still have a healthy relationship for their children. And I think that's important too, as well, isn't it?
It's so important, because we're talking about something bigger than just, you know, your children being okay, and you being okay, and that you can co-parent and keep an amicable family life. We're talking about much, much bigger picture than this. Because if you think about it, it's like, what are you passing on?
Absolutely.
What is a script? What is a legacy you're passing on? Because whatever you're passing on is going to be passed on down generations of people that won't even know you existed at one point. Okay, so it's like, what is a narrative that we're passing on to our children?
Absolutely.
That, you know, once you made a choice and you screw up, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's you branded.
Yeah.
Because what you just said there is, you know, like, sometimes we grow out of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we change.
Yeah.
You know, right when you know, Mum and Dad made the decision back then, you know, 20 years ago to get married, it was absolutely the right thing then, you know, and we did it from a place of love and, you know, consciousness, etc.
Yeah.
But now we've outgrown it. And what your children are getting to witness, and they're really lucky, is that sometimes we outgrow things and we can move on and we can have another great life.
Absolutely.
You know, and that gives them the courage to take risks, to be brave, without thinking, what if I fail? What if this is the wrong thing? Well, it doesn't matter, because if it is, you choose again and you choose again and you choose again.
And I think it is so vital that you teach your children to make the right choices for themselves. I mean, we were adamant from the day we first got together that we would never be that couple. We've had this conversation many times, that we would never be that couple that sat across the table just not talking.
Yeah.
And if it got to that point, or if it got to the point where we were bickering, or if it got to the point where one of us started, you know, liking other people or anything like that, that we would have a conversation about it and we would be adults about it. And it doesn't mean it's not painful, and it hasn't been painful, but we've been real about it and we've been conscious about it. And therefore our children seem to be pretty grounded, you know, on the face of it.
I'm sure
touch wood.
Yeah.
They're pretty grounded, and they're pretty much know what they want, and they won't settle for, there's no one should settle. I don't think anyone should settle. And I think sometimes, I'm not advocating separation or divorce, but I think sometimes people stay in situations a lot longer than maybe they would do because they feel they have to. And that is actually setting down. You're teaching your children to settle for, settle for something because you should conform to doing what everyone tells us to do.
Yeah.
So I think to have a doula, to have someone that can guide you through that process, is a magnificent thing. I think it's a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had it.
I think I'm going to have a chat with you after this show, to be honest.
Yeah, because I went through a really unnecessarily messy, difficult, very, very painful separation. Well, marriage as well. Yeah. Separation, divorce. I'm really good friends with my ex-husband, by the way, now. He's he's a business partner of mine, and we co-parent, but we went through an awful lot.
Yeah.
Our journey is our journey. But just for anyone listening today, what I also want to point out, and many of my clients are in this position, is that they'll listen to this and go, yeah, this all makes sense, and I want this too. I want to be able to sit across the table from my ex-partner and, be able to co-parent and for our children to see a healthy relationship. I want all of that, but right now it's not possible, because my ex-husband's like this, or my ex-wife is like this, and she won't change and he won't change. I get a lot of that as well. And it's real and it's true.
Of course.
You cannot control the other person. That's the truth of it. You can only control yourself.
Yeah.
So, my invitation to anyone listening today who's thinking, it might be okay for you guys because, you get on with your ex-partners now, is I invite you to carry on doing the work for yourself. It's about forgiving yourself for not being able to, for putting up with the things that you did put up with that maybe you shouldn't have any put up for too long with. Yeah. You did it it came from a good place because you were trying to protect yourself and your family and trying to do the right thing. But also it's about doing the forgiveness work to yourself. And also forgiving that other person. Even if you don't get that forgiveness back, it's about going, how can I find space to forgive that other person? I forgave my ex-husband well before he came and said sorry to me.
Yeah,
I mean, literally years before he came and said sorry to me. Yeah. And when he eventually did come and say sorry to me, it was really nice to hear, but I'd already done the work.
Yeah.
I'd done the work and was able to then move on because I'd done my own internal healing. And that takes time. It does take careful guidance because it's a really tough journey to navigate on your own. You can do it, of course. It just might take a lot longer to do. And it can be a really confusing place to be.
And why not get some help if you can?
Absolutely, because life is so precious.
Why not get some help if you can? Why not make things an easier process, And
why not is often because we don't feel like we're worthy of it or we deserve it.
And we do, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think you're fabulous. How can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch with you and find out more? Obviously, there's going to be people out there that will want to talk to you and find out more about what you do. So where's the best place for them to go?
Well, come and hang out with me on Instagram.
Yes.
Yes, I'm absolutely. On Instagram. I'm Farhana El Hussein on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that is probably the main place to come and find me there. And I'll share with you some other details that you can maybe put in your...
I think I'm going to find out one of your workshops. Maybe I need to come along to a workshop.
Yes, and they're the other things that we've got. I've got lined up for later on this year is some sort of in real life workshops because there's a lot of men and women crying out to get face to face, to do lots of role play.
Oh, definitely.
Scripts, that sort of thing. I've got lots of fun things lined up for the future.
So we'll watch this space.
Absolutely, watch this space.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey and just telling us about what you do. And it's vital work. So it's been very interesting for me to hear. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Coco. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.